to get into this Candace Owens story here, which I believe I haven't seen her stream yesterday. I didn't see her stream today. So maybe she's off this week. I don't know. So I'm wondering if she's going to make a video about this, but we got to talk about this. So a producer for the Charlie Kirk show decided to tell Candace Owens just exactly what he thought of her when he simply could have just answered the question that she asked. And he is out here doubling down, tripling down on calling her a DEI hire. Now we're going to get into all of it. Let's see what actually kicked things off. So Candace said, not to be awkward, but regarding your instruction that we should watch Charlie's old content to see how he felt. One of the early actions his wife took as the new CEO was to have all the Charlie Kirk show episodes removed from Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. This was done less than 6 weeks after this assassination. So that is Candace responding to someone named Megan Basham, where she said most of these people are shallow and harmless. A few are dangerous. Erica falls into a lot of category. She's repeating what this woman said. I guess she's talking about what Elizabeth Lane said. We talked about that the other day. And so I don't want to get into the whole Megan thing, but to say here, I didn't know about this, that episodes were removed from Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. I will say that is weird. It almost seems like they're trying to do some type of rebrand. It's kind of weird. And you would just delete those things and just remove them. I don't know. But that is what was said. And apparently that angered this guy here, who is Ryan Marty, who is a producer for the Charlie Kirk show. This pissed him off so much that he said this. Hey, fun fact, DEI queen, I'm the only one that exclusively runs the Charlie Kirk YouTube, and nothing was deleted after his death. Stop making up garbage accusations that you literally know nothing about. You've become worse than KJP, which is Corinne Jean-Pierre, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. So the first thing that I want to point out, we'll hover over him. So I'll show you, because just to see if is who he says he is. Ryan Marty, that's him right there, says the Charlie Kirk show. And first thing I noticed, instead of just responding to this question by saying, I'm the only one that exclusively runs Charlie Kirk YouTube, yada, yada, he had to say DEI queen. Why did he have to say that? Why do you have to say that? And then on top of that, Candace doesn't work for anyone. She has her own show. She's independent now, right? So that would mean that he's talking about her being a DEI queen back when she did work for someone, which would have been when she was a part of Turning Point USA and when she was a part of the Daily Wire. So he had to throw that in. What I tell you when I say people show you who they really are in the end. It gets worse, because you would think he would take it down, but he goes on. Right here. Because Candace responds here, you have got to appreciate the irony of a company that literally employed me for years, now referring to me as a DEI hire. What does that mean? What does me being Black have to do with anything happening right now? Ryan, why are you referencing my race at all? Is this Turning Point 2.0? So again here, referring to her as DEI. And she said, what does me being black have to do with anything happening right now? Now, let me come forward for a second. Remember when the Daily Wire fired Candace Owens? Some of you, if you've been with me for quite some time, remember what I said back then? I said that it is only a matter of time before they start talking about her the same way they talked about Black Democrats. And here we are. Because here's the thing. During that time, before she was fired from Daily Wire, she was on their team. She worked with Turning Point USA. She worked with the Daily Wire. When they made those comments about Corinne Jean-Pierre or just other Black, female that were Democrats, it was usually Democrats. When they made those comments about Black Democrats, Candace, I guess, felt as though they weren't talking about her, because actually they weren't at that time, but they weren't talking about her because she was on their team. The moment you are no longer on their team, they will treat you the same way they treated the Black Democrats. They will call you the same names. And then on top of that, this comment from Ryan, you know what else it tells you? It tells you that regardless if Candace felt if she was hired as a DEI hire or hired as a token or whatever, regardless of how she felt, he's letting you know how he saw her. He saw her being hired as a token. What does that say about the producer, the Charlie Kirk show, Turning Point USA? He's going to go on to say that he's not really part of Turning Point USA. What the fuck ever. Most of these Turning Point USA people are running the show. Let's go on. We got more to say. People show you who they are. He says so here. I am happy to announce Candace Owens has officially been announced as the low IQ DEI queen of them all. Congratulations, real Candace O. I have the crown for you if you want it. And look at the crown. Look at the picture. It's supposed to be like one of the African crowns. You see this? So now she's not just DEI queen. Now she's also low IQ. Where he get that from? Donald Trump was the one throwing around low IQ this, low IQ that, and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm saying is, this is who they really are. And many of us have been saying it for years. And you don't have to be a Democrat to see it. I'm not a registered Democrat. I'm not a registered Republican. I'm registered no party affiliation. I voted third party. And I called it back then, and I'm calling it now. The same way that they flipped on Candace like this, they will do it to Brandon Tatum. They will do it to the Hodge twins. They will do it to any of them that leave the fucking team. That's how this works. As long as you are bending to their will, as long as you are pushing the message and the narrative that they want you to push, as long as you are playing the role that they want you to play, they'll leave you alone. But the moment you start to veer off course, they will use those same insults to you. It goes on worse. Because it doesn't even stop there. That's the crazy part. She goes on to say, he said this part here, no one said anything about your race. I just referred to the fact that your bad idea should not be accepted. Ketanji Brown Jackson was just the previous queen of bad ideas. Okay, so he called her a DEI hire. Race is a part of DEI. Now he's trying to play stupid. So she goes on to retweet, and she says, it is difficult to put into words the audacity of Turning Point USA and their lies and subsequent gaslighting. This right here is another fun example. He called me a DEI hire, akin to Ketanji Brown. He then tweeted out a photo of an African queen garment dubbing me the queen of DEI. Now he says it had nothing to do with race because surely he would have utilized an Afro queen garment to symbolize anyone with a bad idea. He comes back to say, I am not in any way affiliated with Turning Point USA. Can you try not to pull a Jussie Smollett and turn this into a race hoax and address the rebuttal I made to your uninformed claims? By the way, this person here, Jennifer, said, this is funny. How are you curating the Charlie Kirk show clips and episodes and not affiliated with TPUSA? He triples down. So I just want to add this part here. During this back and forth, not once did I see one person from Turning Point USA, via Erica, via, Andrew, any of them come in and say, Ryan, stop. Not once did I see any one of them come in and apologize and say, this is wrong, this is unprofessional. Not one of them. Now, of course, people will say, well, Candace has been coming after Erica and she's been looking into her. Everybody been coming after Erica and looking into Erica. It's not just Candace. A lot of people have been looking into Erica because Erica been lying. But that doesn't mean you hit below the belt here. He could have easily pushed back on her without bringing up this whole DEI hire thing. That was hitting below the belt. But here's the thing. Not one of them said anything. You know why? Because they agree with him. This is how they see her. This is how they always seen her. And she may not have seen herself that way, but they saw her that way. I have something else to tell you about that too. I'm going to tell you what has been happening behind the scenes in this space. Ryan goes on to say, it's crazy how conservatives are now defending DEI. I remember a time when we wanted to promote the best and brightest ideas grounded in truth and reality. Instead, a huge portion of a fractured coalition is now possessed by the same dark spirit that rules the leftists. So now all of a sudden, if you call him out on this, now he's trying to say you're basically a leftist. Candace Owens is still conservative last time I checked. Hitting below the belt. And I'm going to show you some more, but let me tell you something real quick. Let me tell you something about political YouTube. Some little things that go on behind the scenes. Before the Daily Wire reached out to Candace, before they decided to bring Candace on, I know other Black conservative women that were approached and they turned it down because they were not willing to move the way that Ben Shapiro wanted them to move. Now, it's their story to tell. If they choose to come on and tell it, they're welcome to come on here and tell it. But similar offers were made to other people and they turned it down because they saw Ben Shapiro for what he fucking was. The same way Candace made a show not too long ago when she said that Ben Shapiro hates Black people too. He hates da-da-da. They saw that back then. And they weren't willing to play that role. So they found Candace. That's how Candace gets that job. There's a lot of things that happen that people are just not aware of. Now, I think what some people are getting wrong about this is that they think it only happens in conservative YouTube media. That's not true. I'll tell you another story. In progressive YouTube media, which people don't like to talk about this, but we're going to talk about it. There have been a number of Black commentators that were bullied out of this space. 2 that I know personally. You probably will never know who they are because they are no longer here. One of them said that they were very disappointed that other left podcasters weren't willing to organize on the outside, weren't willing to promote these activities, weren't willing to come together. And they were disappointed because they saw everybody come together for Bernie Sanders before they became, into this space. They said that they realized that a lot of these people just wanted to make money and that they didn't really want to do any type of organizing. So they were disappointed. And then what came along with that was bullying. I watched people bullying them behind the scenes. They are no longer on YouTube. It sucks. It's sad because they had a unique lived experience that I feel like was beneficial and needed in this space. They were bullied out. I knew of another one who was not just great commentator, did a lot of research, did a lot of writing, also bullied out. So it's not just that you don't see a lot of Black people in conservative YouTube media. You don't see a lot of Black people in progressive YouTube media either. And this is something people on the left don't really want to touch. They don't really want to talk about. But many of us know some things. Nico House, Nico's still around. Nico warned me early on. The problem that you run into with YouTube media is that you have the option to be a part of a network, a group, or to do it solo. There's pros and cons to both. I mean, if you're a part of a network or a group, you do have other people there, like with you. You have other people that have your back. The con about that, though, is that the moment that you're not pushing the narrative they want, the moment you decide to stray away on said issue, they now consider you to be a liability. Ultimately, this is what happened with the Daily Wire and Candace Owens, because she wasn't willing to take the pro-Israel position after October 7th. So they saw that as a liability and said she got to go. That's the con about being a part of a network and working with a group. The pro about being on your own is that you don't have to deal with that. But when you are on your own, the reality is a lot of times it can be isolating. And a lot of times you end up fighting for yourself. I will tell you in the end, though, it's worth it. Because you don't have to answer to these other people. So YouTube media is feisty. These are the things that happen behind the scenes. You don't get to see these things happen. But the moment you start to move in a way that they feel is problematic for their brand, they want you out of there. And depending on who the they is, they will even go as far as to make sure that you don't succeed on your own. I'm sure Candace has talked about some of the things that the Daily Wire has done to her since she went solo, right? We talked about that before on the show. So I've seen it on both sides. And that is why you don't see too many people mess with me. That's why you don't see me on some of these shows. It's not that I wouldn't go on. They don't reach out because I don't fit their narrative. And that goes across political ideology. You don't fit their narrative. They don't really want, they will bring on a conservative that they can debate before they bring on someone like me. And if you pay close attention, you guys have probably seen this. That's in the progressive YouTube media space. Yes, they will bring on a conservative before they bring on someone like me. Now, the problem that you run into if you go at this on your own is that if nobody knows you, you're really starting from the bottom, like I did. The way that you are brought to other people is by collaborating across different shows. But what people will do, the gatekeepers in YouTube media, they will try their best to make sure that no one finds you and no one sees you. That's on both sides. Their brand comes first. And there was one person who decided not to do that early on, back when I had maybe 4,000, 5,000 subscribers. Brianna Joy Gray brought me onto the Hill Rising multiple times. At one point, I was going on to Rising once a week as a guest spot. I always shout her out for that because she didn't have to do that. She was Bernie Sanders' press secretary. She could have just continued writing. She could have just looked out for herself. She did not have to do that. And she continued to bring me on. And that's how other people found me. What I'm here to tell you is that there are people who are gatekeepers in YouTube media that will make it so that you never see or hear about these people. That's the game that is played. The issue that they ran into with Candace is that she was already well known. Everybody knew who she was. So when she left the Daily Wire, she's like, okay, I'll just do my own, YouTube show. The mistake that they also made is that assuming people would not follow her, assuming that most people were going to stick beside the Daily Wire and forget about her. That didn't happen. Ben Shapiro was bleeding subscribers left and right. Turning Point USA is struggling. I think they really underestimated her with this. But that's who they always been. So when you are willing to play their game, they love you. They will promote you. They will give you as much praise as possible. They'll give you speaking engagements. They will do as much as they can for you because you are a part of their goal. But when you start to disagree and you do so publicly, now it's all about the brand, and they will do whatever they can to try to destroy you. The whole token thing, it wasn't just them. Nick Fuentes also called her a token. Listen to this.
You are a diversity hire. You are a DEI hire. You pander. And she thinks she's some kind of boss bitch. Yeah, you're a bitch, but like you didn't get that way because you're a super smart boss. You got that way because you're super bitchy black token. Like, it is what it is. So I don't know that anyone's ever told her that, but that's the obvious. And I'm kind of done with all the Uncle Toms. In a way, I'm done with all the Uncle Toms. I'm done with Jason Whitlock. I'm done with Candace Owens. I'm done with all the Uncle Tom token blacks. Like, you're not that smart. You're not even that conservative. You built your career on a grift that is now dead. You were hired when diversity quotas were a thing. You were hired when white guilt is the thing. I don't feel white guilt. I never have. DEI is over. So now you're done. You need to be fired. Like, you're done. You are a diverse.
This is the way they always were. And so will people say, well, why do that? Why would they just bring on like a Candace or a Brandon Tatum or a Hodge twins? Like, why would they? Because you are the person that they can use as a shield. You're the person that they can use as a shield so that when it is time to critique Black people or the Black community, they can point to you and say, we are not racist. We have her. Yes, Ben Shapiro can say these things. Yes, the other Turning Point people, Andrew Kovac, yeah, they can say those things. But it works out better for you if you have a Black person that says it for you. That's what they use you for. Yeah, Nick Fuentes said that. So it's been said multiple times. And I show you this part. Not Woke Awake said, interesting. I don't recall anyone getting this triggered when Candace was dunking on blacks. Candace responded to that. This was August 18th, 2024. This is back when Candace was talking about Zionists and stuff like that. This was 2024, and people were getting mad at her, talking about how they don't like the fact that she's calling out Israel and stuff like that, right? Now, Candace retweeted that, and let me show you what Candace said. Again, Not Woke Awake said, interesting. I don't recall anyone getting this triggered when Candace was dunking on blacks. Candace said, no, that was always allowed and encouraged. August 18th, 2024. And see, that's the thing. Of course, that was allowed and encouraged. That was what they wanted her to do. That was the role they wanted her to have. But the moment she started to dunk on Israel and she started to call out the Israelis and the Zionists, that was a bridge too far for them. Now you got to go because you criticizing, wait a minute, you're criticizing my people. So now you got to go. These are the types of games that people play with you. They use you up. They get what they want from you, and then they don't need you anymore. And it happens in all of YouTube media. I don't give a damn what political aisle you're on. It happens on all of it. That comment that you saw from Ryan right there, he said that out in the open. That was overt. On the progressive side of YouTube media, people make little comments too behind the scenes. They would never say it publicly, but I don't know, some of the things like Sam Cedar has a debate with Breonna Joy Gray about force the vote and then goes on to Twitter and says she was loud and angry. They do it in a more covert way. Shit like that. But the statement that came from Ryan, they're exposing themselves at this point. Honestly, there's not that much more that Candace really need to do. Like, they're exposing themselves. The fact that he couldn't just respond and say, that's not true, I'm the producer of the show, and just leave it at that. The fact that he had to put that in there, that tells you everything you need to know. The fact that Andrew Colvin and none of these other people at TPUSA or part of the Charlie Kirk show came in to say, stop that or apologize or defend or anything like that, tells you everything you need to know. This is who they are. This is who they've been. And they weren't that way towards her because she was on their team. Now that she's not on their team, they're going to treat her just like they treated the Black Democrats. Because at the end of the day, whether you're conservative or Democrat, if you're Black, you're still Black. They are their own worst enemy. Terrence Howard said something I thought was pretty good for people to listen to, how people really need to look at things yourself.
Good morning, everyone. This is a message to every man and woman out there that's searching for clarity in this complicated world. Number one, let me see the world as it truly is, not only as I was told it must be. You see, we inherit tradition, stories, and timelines and explanations. But true maturity begins the moment we are willing to look for ourselves. Number two, let me follow evidence over assumption, observation over expectation. You see, our world is full of many voices telling us what to think. But our greatest strength that we could ever develop is our ability to examine things with our own eyes, our own logic, our own God-given courage. Number 3, let me question every constant, every rule that was handed down, every truth that cannot stand up to scrutiny. This is not rebellion. This is responsibility. It is how science moves forward. It is how history is corrected. It is how we evolve as a species. Number 4, let me choose clarity over comfort, precision over persuasion, understanding over tradition, even when that tradition is beloved. You see, this is the path of those who seek the truth, not to destroy anything, but to understand it honestly. Because there's no growth without questioning. There's no wisdom without evidence. There's no freedom without clarity. And finally, number 5, may my mind remain open, my reasoning remain disciplined, and my pursuit of truth remain fearless, not for the sake of controversy, but for the sake of integrity. To every seeker out there that is potentially absorbing any of this, we don't have to inherit the world as it was given to us. We have the right and the responsibility to examine it for ourselves. You see, the truth does not fear being questioned. Only fragile ideas do.
Only fragile ideas do. Terrence Howard, sometimes he says some things that are kind of kooky, but I thought that really hit the spot there, because I do think that oftentimes we tend to, it's like we're afraid to question something that may upset the people around us or the people close to us. One thing about this show is that I just really don't give a damn. I say things that people agree with. I say things that people disagree with on this show. But I think that's the world that I live in. I don't live in a world where everybody agrees. I don't live in a community where everybody agrees. I don't think you do either, despite what we may tell ourselves, right? So I always say, question everything. And always pay attention to the way that people respond to questions, or the way that people respond to any type of, pushback or whatever. What I thought was really interesting, again, was the way that Ryan chose to respond to that question. I mean, honestly, he didn't have to say anything at all. This is another one of those examples where he could have just shut the fuck up. But notice how he chose to respond. That will tell you everything about how people operate and what they really see when they looking at you. Because that DEI part, he could have left that out. He did that on purpose. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.